2, 1.
Hi, today's topic is Ain't Nothing But a G-thing. So it's about the big O for women. And we're going to be discussing with a guy who's going to be on this talk show also. I am Laila White from Singapore. I host the show of Life by Laila. It's basically a platform for people to come together, sit down and chat about the experiences that I have had in my life. And also, I'm sure you have some similar experiences too. So if you can do me a favor, if you like the show, the talk show, please share and comment. This is a live show, so a lot of things happen and you can't edit it. Just bear with me. So I am so fortunate today. I have two very intellectual individuals. The sexy Jo Potter. She's a singer, songwriter. I'll have her on so she can introduce herself. And then I also have my friend. He's a mentor. He's an author, and he is everything. A trainer, a speaker, whatever he will tell you. And he's also right next to me because we can't get the technical side correct. So that's why you guys still hanging on. It's Bill Calhoun. So I'll bring on Jo, please. First, Jo, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you about this very sensitive and taboo topic. Introduce yourself, please, Jo, so people know who you are and what you do. And she is live from her bedroom. How sexy is that?
Well, thank you for having me on. It's real pleasure to be here. My name is Jo Potter. I am in my bedroom. I actually thought it would be perfect to have this conversation in bed because we usually don't have these kinds of conversations in bed. We're doing something else. I am a singer-songwriter. I've written and produced 2 albums. They're on iTunes. It's on Spotify, Rhapsody, Amazon. You can find me pretty much everywhere if you're interested in my music. And my music pretty much what I think this topic is more about is really about connection.
Okay, hang on one second, Jo. We missed you for the last sentence before you say, this show is about. Can you just repeat that? Because there was a drop in the, yeah.
Yeah, so my feeling about the show is that much like my music, it's about relationships, but it's really about connection. It's really about connecting, and whether that be connecting with this topic is also just connecting with yourself and connecting with partners, but we can get on that later.
Yes, absolutely. So now I think that Bill has to run across and introduce himself since we are in the same room and we're pretending we're not. So Bill, please introduce yourself. Scoot over. This is so great.
Hey guys, hey, what's up? This is going to be really strange because I'm actually working Laila's production side. You want to know my name, but I can't put up my name here. Otherwise, it'll show up as Laila because this is her account. Okay, so my name is Bill Calhoun. I've written books. I coach individuals, and I'm not going to go into all the boring details. So I'm the only guy here, and I feel a little overwhelmed. And I believe that Jo and Laila are probably going to lay into all the guys out there through me, which really kind of sucks because that means I'm going to be taking the brunt of all of the male nonsense. I'll try to live up to whatever I can. I'm going to fight the fight, guys. And women, please be kind. Remember, I am just an icon. I do not necessarily believe.
Okay. I got to interrupt you. You're in the perfect situation. All men want to be in this menage a trois. That's all I can say. So stop defending yourself and just take the abuse that you're going to get. It's going to be awesome.
Seriously. But how do you know, Jo? Because you're not a guy. You don't know how sensitive we really are. Until you're in the body of a guy, you don't know how it hurts. Yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, go ahead, Laila. Back to you. I'm gonna bring Laila back on, Jo. I'm gonna scooch you over to the side because I'm sharing her screen. There. Okay, Jo, we'll be back. Okay, go ahead, Laila.
Okay. So my first question is orgasms for women. The big O. Is it a myth? I'm going to share with you some of the stories that I've heard. These are real life people. Some women claim that if they don't know it, they won't miss it. Also, some think this is, don't laugh because these are actually conversations that I've had with women. So some of them think that their own women orgasms are when a man ejaculates. And then some of them says the feeling of orgasm is almost like taking a dump. You may laugh about this, but these are actual feelings or thoughts that women have about orgasm. So can you share what your thoughts are and some experiences when you exchange conversations with women, Joe?
I mean, I've heard about this as well, as far as, women not experiencing orgasms. And the only thing I can say to that and speak to that is that I think that a lot of those women don't know their own bodies. I think from a societal factor, there's a lot to be said about being taboo, not to be touching your bodies, not to be exploring. And I think that, and also I think just generally as women, it's very difficult sometimes for us to articulate what we like and what we don't. We sort of, I think we're taught quite often to be passive in bed from a societal factor. And I think that some people are able to break out of that and understand that a little bit more, but some people are just a little bit too shy. So I get why maybe some women feel like that's a myth, but I'm here to tell you it is not a myth. Ain't no myth going on up here. There's no myth about orgasms. I mean, there is, I'm certain that there are some people who are asexual who cannot achieve maybe orgasm and from a physiological standpoint. I feel very badly for these women. But moreover, I think it's more about what's going on inside their head that's keeping them in that frame of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very correct. I think I want to ask Bill that same question, but I'm sure he has female friends, and Bill is very open, and I'm sure women have talked to him about this. But I want to also ask Bill that women, we are so pressured about the way we act sexually also. And if we are very vocal about what you like, you are considered as provocative, slut shaming, all that comes in. So I think that I want to ask Bill also what his opinion about it. So Bill, you need to scoot in and then join in the talk.
Okay, so let me just get your question correct here. So you're asking me about whether or not, ask the question again. I'm sorry.
He's doing too many things at the same time.
I'm typing and doing all this stuff. I'm trying to listen. Okay.
So the first thing is that Joe and we've experienced women talking about the big O casually when some of them do not actually know what it is. So I'm sure you have a lot of female friends, and because of how you are and who you are, they do confide in you. So have you heard stories like that? Stories in terms of they've never experienced orgasm, what they think of what the big O is?
Well, no, actually, I haven't heard women actually come out and say it, especially in Asia, simply because it is taboo. Some individuals don't want to speak with me about it. However, what I do is I ask. I know it's going to sound kind of weird, but I actually ask my partners, what is it that I can do to make them feel better? I don't try to assume anything. Now, that's the reason why I say I perhaps may be a little bit different in my ideology than some other men, because for me, it's all about pleasing an individual and sharing an experience. It's not about me getting off on my own. If I'm going to get off on my own, I can just go to my bedroom and just, as we say, we just yank off one. Okay. Sorry, ladies. But that's not what it's about for me. So with all of my relationships, it's about sharing the experience, and it's kind of tough. It's sort of like, let's say, for example, you go to a restaurant. I don't mean to be mean sex by using the restaurant as a metaphor, but if you're going to a restaurant and you have a choice of an Italian restaurant, a French restaurant, or let's say an Asian foods restaurant. So let's say, for example, that I like French food, and I don't even ask my partner whether or not they like French food or not. I just assume that they're going to like French food, but they may be an Italian, they love Italian food. Well, so if I ask them, what do you like? Which is what I prefer to do, the experience is going to be much more fulfilling if we're sharing the same thing. So if I ask my partner, which restaurant would you like to go to between the French, Asian, and Italian? And they say, well, I like Italian. And I say, well, I like French. Well, let's go find a different restaurant that serves both menus. Or This week, let's go to the Italian restaurant. Next week, how about we go to the French restaurant? Now, how do I tie that back to relationship and orgasm? Let's just say, for example, and it's not all about guys needing to oblige the female all the time. There's an exchange. So let's say, for example, using that whole restaurant metaphor of a French restaurant versus an Italian restaurant, let's say, okay, we go to the Italian restaurant this week. I'll make you have orgasm this week. I'll be a participant in giving you the joy that you want. Next week, how about we reverse the roles a little bit? Why don't you give me the joy? And then we can, that's one way of looking at it. Of course, this experience can probably be embraced within the same setting. It doesn't have to wait until next week. I'm just doing that so that people understand here. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, because I'm shocked with the next week. Right, we're gonna wait for bloody next week.
Well, next week is the restaurant. You can't really eat at an Italian restaurant and then say, okay, let's go next door and go have French food. Okay.
I was like, oh my God. So, but I also know that some women, that to escape that, because they don't know anybody, they don't know pleasure. Like Joe has said eloquently in the beginning, you don't know your body, you don't know how to pleasure yourself. Some sort of escape these women come up with, where they have. I know people that get pregnant every year just not to be pregnant. He's scooting me over. just to get pregnant and breastfeed, and just not, because the husband is so boring, doesn't know how to pleasure the women, so they get pregnant every year. Joe, come on back, and I want to ask you this question. Don't you think that is also unfair on the women's side, that we don't? I know that we have become a gender that we're supposed to be seen and not heard. So I think that in a relationship, for me personally, you need to pleasure both gender. That's why you come together. So as women, we also need to take responsibility by voicing out what you want and what you don't want in bed, what you like. It's a two-way street. What do you think about that, Joe?
Well, I mean, I think it's funny, like, just with the topic that you had covered, what do women need? The truth is, women need to just speak up. I mean, women need to start identifying what is it exactly that makes them feel pleasure, and being able to speak up and have the confidence to speak up. And I get that, like, it's also touching on what Bill said. A lot of it is having the right partner in order to do that. You have to make sure that the person, and this goes both ways, like, guy's not going to tell you what he wants unless he feels very safe and secure about how you're going to perceive him and the judgment that's going to come upon you. And the same thing goes for women, but women have to, if you want something, and it's not just with sex, like, if you want something, you got to ask for it, because you get nothing of what you don't ask for.
Yeah. So the other thing that I want to touch on is, before we get to Bill, women fake orgasms, right?
No.
Huh? So I did some research this morning. So the fact is 81% of people have admitted to faking at least one orgasm in their life. Only 30% of women orgasm through penetration alone. The rest need stimulation of the clitoris in order to climax. So I mean, I have been guilty of faking it when I was younger also, because when you're young, you try to understand your body, what sex is all about. But have you ever faked it in your life? Or, Joe, I'm asking you first before I ask Bill.
Yes, absolutely I have. And I can tell you that of the 70% that have faked it, the other 30% is lying. Because I can tell you right now, and there's a myriad of reasons why women fake orgasm. Sometimes it's because they feel as though that gives heightened pleasure to their partner, that they're getting pleasure, and it heightens their pleasure. There's been times when I've faked an orgasm because I've been going at it and going at it and going at it, and I know that he's not going to reach orgasm until he thinks I have, and so if that's going to add to it, so be it. I think that it's one of those things like that. I've been with partners that are just you know, that have been great lovers, but just will only really feel satisfaction when I've reached orgasm. So, you know, and there's sometimes where you're like, you know, if you had been drinking or you're just tired and it's just not going to happen, like, you know, sometimes it's a lot. There's been times where I've just said, hey, it's not going to happen. And there's times when I'm just too tired to even say that. And I go, you know what? There's your performance. Now leave me alone.
Well, that's fantastic. That's very honest and very truthful, because not many women have admitted that. Not many women have said, you know, with drinking and sometimes, you know, when you're too tired, you know, because we don't want our job, mostly as women, we're supposed to pleasure the man, right? But when you talk about your partners, their heightened pleasure is when they give you pleasure. I mean, those are fantastic partners, because most of the time women have always had men dump on them. That's the way I feel it, you know, dump on them. So now I'm going to ask Bill about men. Do men fake orgasm? So scoot over, Bill.
That's okay. You can stay right there. Okay. Well, there's one major. Okay. First of all, I want to say, Rich Henderson, thank you, man. You say you got my back. Okay. You better get my back, man. Okay. Because here it comes. All right. It's really the most difficult thing for a man to do is to fake orgasm, for the obvious reason. Unless, of course, we go, oh, and then we turn around and shoot our load on the wall. It's kind of difficult to fake it, because all a woman's got to do is just look downstairs and go, dude, why are you screaming, man? There's nothing coming out of there. What the hell is all wrong with you? Okay. So no, we can't fake it. Which is, you know, I have to applaud women, because they can fake it even though they don't want to. Okay. So in a guy's sense, no, we you know what? I don't even think guys even consider faking. You know, I don't think they would scream just for the sake of a partner in the majority of the situations. However, what Joe mentioned just now was very interesting about how having partners that will feel good about a woman if she has an orgasm. There's a second part to that I learned. I discovered that I was trying to please my partners so often, and then when they didn't, I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. And so then that's when we started to have a conversation, because they would say, no, you haven't done anything wrong, but they still felt good. And so it was very difficult for me to understand what a woman was going through when she's in that sense of eroticism. And so what I did, and I remember it was about 20 years ago, I read the book, The Height Report. And the Height Report, for those of you who don't know, men, you literally should read The Height Report. Don't go read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Okay, that's bullshit. Okay, go read The Height Report, because as Laila mentioned just now, she rattled off some statistics. Well, The Height Report is a husband and wife team who actually did research on sex, orgasm, and all these things, all the taboo things and things that people were concerned with. And I remember reading that and going, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is what I have been missing. I don't understand the opposite sex. And so since that time, I've come to the realization that there are certain things that happen, but it's not something I should strive for as a male, to make a woman orgasm, because then it becomes just as bad as being selfish about yourself, right? Because if you're trying to make a woman reach climax, then it's sort of like you want to win the ball game, and that kind of sucks too. So I think what it's about communicating and understanding. Now, I don't even ask my partner whether or not she's climaxing. I can actually sense, based on her physical reactions, based on, if you know enough, guys, if you know enough about responding, even from a physical level, moisture levels, if a person is, if they're shivering, there are certain things that cannot be faked. And that's what I've learned, but you have to be in tune to that. And when I'm in tune to that, I can adjust whatever it is that I'm doing to accommodate my partner. And at the end of the day, even if that's not happening, you can tell if you're in touch with your partner. And I'm not just talking about doing a one-night stand, because you don't know people like that. There's nothing wrong with what you do in your sex life. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to having a partner, when it comes to actually pleasing someone, taking the time to please them, you have to be sensitive. You actually have to listen. It's not like, listening with just your ears, but you listen with your whole persona. So I hope that kind of clears it up for the guys. To answer your question in short, no, we've never faked it. We just
okay, but that's okay. When you say you don't fake it, right? So when you are inside a woman, you can fake it too. But when you're outside, then it's visual for women to know whether you have reached climax.
Right. Okay. So what you're suggesting is that if we're inside and we're not climaxing and we fake it. Yeah, but I've never done that, and I don't see any reason for actually doing that. For a man.
But you say, okay, because if we were thinking about men and women anyways, we are human beings, right? Like Joe has pointed out, sometimes we are tired, we had too much to drink or whatever. So I think if you are a good partner, you want to make sure that your partner feels good about it. So I'm not talking from the women's point of view. I'm talking about as a man. Like for a woman, if I know you don't tell me, but if you fake it, you say that, it's somewhat telling your partners that, wow, you bring satisfaction to me. So that's, as a woman, like even if you fake it, you're tired, exhausted with drinks or whatever, you don't tell me, but you fake it. To me is, wow, you said I satisfy you as a woman.
Okay, I get you. Okay. Well, so in other words, what you're suggesting is that women need to know that they're satisfying us as well.
Right.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, if we're inside of a woman as a guy, it's and if someone is having excitement and enjoyment, unless you're Superman, it's kind of difficult to fake it in the fact that our penises will kind of like blah, 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 okay. If we're erect, then and we're screaming and whatnot, and it's like 2 minutes later and we're still erect, well, that kind of shows you that it's not. So that could actually do more damage to your partner, because your partner's not stupid. She knows the difference between climaxing and going limp, and not climaxing and staying erect and hard. So in terms of that, Laila, what I would say is that that's where the communication comes in, because if you go down that alley, if a man goes down that alley and faking it, then you're kind of perpetuating the whole problem. Even when women, if women are faking it and they're giving the wrong impression, if guys fake it and they're giving the wrong impressions, I see that is the problem. And the solution is communication. So let's say, for example, a woman says, well, look, I don't know if I'm pleasing you. Well, it's important to be honest, just like a woman is honest to a guy, and say, well, okay, let's say, for example, that the stimulation is not correct, even though it's quite simple when it comes to guys. I mean, all you got to do is one thing, just go up and down, and he's pretty much gone already, okay? But in that instance, let's say, for example, that it's not doing it for the guy. I think it's important for the woman to ask, what is it that I can do to make you feel better? And then it's important for the guy to say, okay, well, perhaps you can do this. And in a situation where I do not want to climax, I would say, you're doing fine. I enjoy this experience. I enjoy us being there. And if I can just touch on one thing here, guys, I'm going to give you a little bit of a lesson. When it comes to orgasm, when it comes to climaxing, it's not necessary to feel that way. In actuality, from a scientific level, if you go right to the brink and then pull yourself back, but this takes a psychological control. It's not a physical control, because I've read stuff about how you need to shake and tighten and loosen the sphincter so you make it power. No, forget all that, guys. All you got to do is you need to tap in. It'll take some time, because it's like anything else that you learn. But we have an amazing ability to actually do better than climaxing when it comes to sexual attraction and sexual sharing. And it's actually, that's what I found. I found that it's actually better, because when we climax, we're not like women who have multiple orgasms. Not all of them, but most of them have multiple orgasms. We have one orgasm and that's it. And the thing is, you didn't know that?
It's not true.
It's not true? Okay. Well, gosh, I didn't get the memo on the mail. Okay. What's not true? That the guys don't have multiple orgasms? Well, we can have multiple orgasm, but I mean, it's sort of like, how do you even okay, Rich, this is where you need to ring in, dude. Because I see, that's what I'm saying. That's why I get stuck right now. But anyway, let me just clarify. When we orgasm, it takes quite a bit of time afterwards in order to bring back that level, because our hormones don't work the same way that women's do. in that situation. So yes, we can have multiple orgasms, but we cannot have them back to back like that. There's a lapse. Okay, there's a period of time.
That's
not true. Well, gosh, I don't know these men. Do tell, Joe.
Okay, so now we can bring Joe on so Joe can share.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the keyboard.
So Joe, please share, because I don't believe that. I mean, but it's not everyone. There are certain people, individuals that are like that, but not on it. It's hard to find, men like that. In my conclusion,
I've had a personal experience with a man who was a previous boyfriend, and I was able to give him multiple orgasms. With that being stated, it's not like I am, like hundreds and hundreds of men, but out of that I have been, and it wasn't just a one-off either.
Hang on a second, Joe. Please repeat the two sentences before this, because we lost you for a minute.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that
hundreds of men. Yeah.
I haven't been with hundreds of men, but from the small sampling that I have been with, there's only been one man who experienced this with me, and it wasn't just a one-off. It was, a few times that that it had occurred. I believe that Bill's partially right, actually 100% right, that the orgasms are everything is, some of it is physiological, but the majority of it is in your head. So
yes.
It's going to be more.
Hang on, Joe. Every time I put my hand up, that means I lose you. So you have to repeat the last one.
Okay. So the capacity for men and women is there. I think it's just a matter of tapping into it psychologically, and yeah,
literally.
And that's all I have. That's all I have to say about that issue.
No, I said literally too.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now we move on to, why are you snickering?
That's great.
So the other question I want to say, does sex get better with age, you think? For me, I speak for myself. I think as I get older, yes, it is, because I take out all the nonsense that goes in between that. I know what I like and I know what I need. And also I'm so in touch with my body, and I know exactly, I don't have to be shameful, and I have a partner that it's satisfying me 100%, because we have that connection emotionally, mind, body, soul, and spirit. So that works for me. So do you think that sex gets better with age? And some women don't, actually.
I think everything gets better with age. I think your decision making gets better with age. I think your choices usually get better with age, not always, but usually get better with age. And I think that those two factors have a very significant effect on your partners that you're choosing and the connection that you're sharing. So yeah, I 100% agree with you that there's not that embarrassment that you have when you're younger. It's sort of like, this is the most natural thing in the world, and not afraid to ask for what I like, what do you like, to make this experience that much richer. So yeah, I think that definitely older is the better way to go.
Yeah, but also I remember, I'm speaking about my own experiences. I know that the difference between having sex or making love, or whatever you want to call it, that it's always about give and take. I do not want to have a partner that's always taking and it's almost a chore. And also I had experience where you feel that the man is just dumping on you. Like he would say, oh, there's a schedule, like, oh, I have to eat first. After I eat, then we're going to have sex. That's a no-no for me. I cut that off. Or like, for example, it's a lot of, when you have the intimacy and then you feel that person is just, lashing on you instead of enjoying you. I mean, you have moments like passion or whatever, but this is constant, and that's a no-no for me. Have you had that kind of experience where you say, no, not going to work for me, I'm going to cut the session off?
I think that there's a couple of yes. The short answer to that is yes. In different varieties than what you've experienced. I think that if a lover is just very selfish, then I have no use for that, and I'm going to cut that off pretty quick. And then there's really a lack of connection. I've never experienced anybody who said, I want to eat dinner before I have sex with you, because like that would be me too. Go eat your fucking dinner and I'll talk to you later. Like, sorry.
No, but it's true. It's happened. It's all parts of my life that I go like, fuck, why am I with you? So, but I had a partner that is amazing that takes you, high, so high that, crashing is even a pleasure. Literally. So I want to ask Bill, is sex how men show love? Come in.
Is sex how men show love?
Yeah, through sex, this is how they show love.
Okay, hang on a second. I need to type this in here for just a moment. Because we need to. Sorry, folks. I'll be right back.
Poor Bill, he's got 2 things to do at the same time, or 3. Is sex how men show love?
Okay, guys. I particularly need to do this because we as men, our attention span is like, tweet. Okay, sometimes. So we really need to have this stuff written. And then when we do the replay, we need to go, okay. Anyway, sorry, guys. Okay. Sorry, Rich. Okay. Anyhow, the question was, do men, that's okay. You're cool. Do we need to show love through sex?
Right.
I think some of us do. Because of some of our upbringing, just like women who are brought up to perhaps conceal their true passion, men, for a large part, are brought up thinking that
you guys are just shit.
Well, we're brought up thinking that we have to accomplish something, and so through sex, if that's an accomplishment, then that's an accomplishment. And I'm not saying this is for all guys. It happens a lot, though. You can see it in politics. You can see it in the school system. You can see it in just relationships. We're actually always trying to accomplish something or feeling like we have a responsibility. Now, that's, like I said, this is not everything, but for the most part, traditionally, we are taught that we have to be a man. And so by being a man, providing a woman with sex can be a way of showing love. Now, is that the man's fault? I think it's education's fault, whether or not it's parents, whether or not it's the school, whether or not it's literature, to let us know that there are varying facets of love. Now, the men who are in the know and who research and study the acts of love instead of the acts of sex will understand the difference. I liken it to, this is just for me, but to me, sex is more physical. Love is more psychological and physical. It's like bringing it together. Using an analogy again, okay? It's sort of like having coffee at a Starbucks, right? You can have a black coffee, tall coffee, and it's just like that. Then you put milk in it, and then you put chocolate in it, and then you have a different kind of configuration, so it becomes fuller. But there's nothing wrong with just the coffee because it does serve its purpose. If a partner is privy to having sex, and that's all you want to do is to fulfill a physical, sexual need, then no, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, we're not here to judge whether or not sex and love are one is better than the other. We're here to understand that if the idea of loving is the foundation, then don't treat it like sex. So people have to understand the vocabulary of it. For men, it goes for us straight up. We have to understand the difference between sex and love. Now, guys, if you don't know what love is, then read more romance novels and go look at more movies. Okay, go look at what they call, I'm gonna get banged here, chick flicks. Okay, I love those movies. They're actually fantastic. Okay, they'll help us become more sensitive to the partners that we're going to meet in life. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And now we're going to ask Joe what he thinks of what you answered.
Joe, all right.
Okay. So I have different viewpoints per se. I think that I think sex and love are two completely different issues, and that you can express your love in different ways aside from sex, and then you can also express your love in that way too. And that's the difference between sex and making love. Making love is when you're really, you know, they're synonymous words, but, you know, making love is when you're really with your partner and you're expressing that emotion with them through a physical nature. Sex, on the other hand, is more of a sometimes a connection and a release and you know, a physiological sort of action that you're doing with somebody that you may or may not like. But I think men show love by actually more outside of the bedroom. I think they show love by affection. I think they show love by making dinner, by cleaning up, by taking care of you emotionally. If they know that you need to be, if they know something pleases you outside of the bedroom, they're more apt to do that when they love you, as opposed to just having sex with you. That comes from, I think men typically have sex with you because they are physically attractive.
Something you can hear, you know?
No, this is on delay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you.
I think those are the more driving forces, the attraction. Up.
Sorry, darling. We lost you for a minute. The attraction, it's
sex is based on attraction and lust and physical desire. And I think that love is really more about the foreplay that gets you to the sex, whether it be, you know, all the kind things that you do to get your woman in the bedroom.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think foreplay is very, very important in any kind of relationship. G-spot, does it exist?
The G-spot, does it exist? Do I think it exists? Do I have experience with it existing? I mean, what exactly?
Have you experienced it?
Yeah, I have, but not often. That's the interesting thing. I mean, like, I think that the G-spot is just an erogenous zone that is supposed to be typically placed inside the vaginal canal. Does it exist? I think it does, but I think that's just like, you know, any woman who would say like, oh, my nipples are so sensitive that's going to lead me into an orgasm. It's, for me, a G-spot is just an erogenous zone. So does it exist? Yes. Have I experienced it? Yes. Yeah, there's the answer.
Yeah, I'm going to answer yes to both questions. But also I think that sometimes women are very unrealistic. They you know, think of the G-spot and everybody has to have it, and everybody has to have it. And instead of enjoying, they look for G-spots like pot of gold. So instead of enjoying the rainbow ride, they aim for the pot of gold, and, you know, they miss all the process of exploring and enjoying each other. I'm sure Bill knows about G-spot, right? Bill, do you know?
Hold on. You want me to come in here?
Yes.
Okay. Question was?
Do you know anything about women's G-spot? Have women ever told you that, oh my God?
Yeah, it means girl spotting, right?
Okay.
As in I spot the girl, not the woman. Is that what it is?
That answers your question.
No, I do. Okay. Now I don't know about the G-spot. I've heard about it.
Okay.
And this is what I love about your show here, is that I'm learning things from what Joe is saying in terms of the way that Joe is seeing it, the way that you're seeing it. And I think that's what the point is about this broadcast, right? Is to learn, because we have a tendency to come at it from a male perspective. And as Joe mentioned, she has had partners that understood or were able to have multiple orgasms. Mm-hmm. But this is an isolated event because Joe and her partners versus the rest of the world. And I was sitting here and going, really? I wish I could do that. Okay, because it's new. Traditionally, we're not exposed to that. And then now what's happening, and I hope people out there are sharing and following what Laila and Joe are talking about here in the program, because this is important. This is an education. This is an enlightenment that we don't typically have. I'm sitting over here at the side when Joe and Laila are talking, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, G-spot. And I'm taking out my pen and taking notes because, G-spot, we hear about it, but do we really understand it from a standpoint that Laila and Joe are talking about as a male? No. So yeah, I've heard about it, but I don't know much more about it.
I think Joe explained it scientifically also, where the G-spot is, and also from experience. Before you slide over, I want to ask you, can you actually break a penis?
Break a penis?
Yeah. Can a penis actually break during sex?
Well, I don't know.
No, these are actual questions that people ask.
Seriously.
I swear. I'm not lying. Do you think I make this up?
Women ask this or guys ask this?
Men. Women, sorry.
Women ask if they can break a penis.
Yeah. Can a penis actually break during sex?
Okay, now it's a great question because I don't know how to answer. I don't have any evidence because I haven't actually Googled, will a penis break? And I've never broken mine. It still stands up straight. It may be a little off to the side. So if that's called broken, maybe, I don't know. But as our creator, I really can't answer that right now.
Okay, so now we're gonna ask Joe. So Joe she's shaking her head. So I wanna get her on board and answer this magical question. Sorry, Joe, I can't. Okay, good. Something is happening. The topic is too hot, so we can't hear. We can't hear you, Joe.
No one wants to hear the answer to this question.
Got it.
Okay. The answer is yes. The penis can break. And it's not necessarily what you think.
I think you need to adjust a little bit your phone so we can hear it a bit. Not too much because we don't want to lose you. Okay, try again. Please don't go anywhere, Joe. Ah! That's a drop. Okay, let's. You already answered that question, so I can't hear you, Joe. Let me tune you. Okay, try again.
How about
this is
now?
Live, so now better. Okay.
Okay. Yes, the penis can break. The penis can break. Either you can cause damage to the urethra. You can also cause damage to the muscle itself. You can tear the muscle. In tandem of what I do as a singer-songwriter, I actually have a clinical background, and I had a patient that had come in for an evaluation on his penis because he did break it during sex. He was having very rough sex with his partner, and he broke his penis. And not only did it he had to have surgery on it, but it also deviated to the left.
Oh my God. Hang on a second, because I did the research. It says the same thing that you just said. This is amazing. Yeah, but the embarrassment for the guy, poor guy, he must be embarrassed about it. There's something happening. Like, this topic is too hot. We just lost you again. Okay, hang on a second. So let me ask another question to Bill while we try to get you back on the sound. So, Bill, you know the movie, what, 50 Shades of Grey. So most women are so mesmerized by this. I read the book. I didn't see the movie because I found the book was too boring. Everybody says that the book was interesting. Why do you think? For me, it was. I mean, to me, it was boring because I like to claim, like Joe, I've done more exciting stuff than the book itself. So, have you read the book, Bill? Or the movie? Have you seen the movie?
I haven't read the book, and I haven't actually seen the movie, so I don't know how to answer. Well,
it's about a guy who found a young girl, and taught her sexual escapades, about what to do, you know, tying her up and all the pleasure. You're really, really innocent. Good thing.
No, I mean, if I had seen a movie based on what you're saying,
yeah,
if I'd actually seen a movie like that advertised, I have no interest in it.
Right. But I bought the book because somebody said, "Oh, you got to read this book," right? And I read it, and I was like, "Shit, can I send it back because I want my money back?" But most women, and it says it all about. I mean, I'm not here to judge people, but most women find this really exciting.
Exciting in what sense? Exciting in what, like
because there's
being
no
dominated?
inhibitions. Yeah, like, you know, exploring. I mean, I think that through that book they speak a language of what they always wanted to experience, that kind of sexuality. You know, to be wanted to have that big O. Okay,
meaning that they had. Okay, yeah, because I didn't.
So hopefully Joe will come on and then speak about the broken penis, and also about what do you call it, about this 50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades. And Joe, what you can do from a technical standpoint, you just keep going, test. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And then Laila will let you know if you're coming on. It's probably because your internet connection is dropping from time to time. So don't worry, I'll turn you guys back over to each other.
Okay.
Here you go.
Okay, Joe, can you hear me?
Test. Do you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Test. Okay. So I don't think we want to revisit the whole broken penis thing. Let's just say that it's very painful for the guy, and that will cease any embarrassment whatsoever. Moving on to the 50 Shades of Grey. I am one of the women who have not read the book. I did not see the how about now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I know what the gist is of. I think I know why women find that very appealing. I think it lends back into the taboos about talking about being dominated and BDSM. Test. I think it's very exciting.
Oh, we lost it. So we've lost Joe for a minute. So hopefully Joe will click on the link and be back on. So we'll come back to Joe in a minute when she comes on. Oh, here she is.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah.
So what I was saying is that I think that it's taboo. It's a way for women to open up this idea of even speaking about it. And that's what makes it exciting for them. It makes it very exciting for them I think that's why it was so popular, because you were mainstreaming something that was very provocative. And I think, yeah, it was just mainstreaming it. And this is really good. Like, you know, I actually applaud the author for doing it. And I think that we're starting to see a lot more. I was watching an expert talking about sex and about on a TED Talk, and she was talking about the normalcy of sex, and we need to stop shaming how we view this and start embracing this and being okay with, you know, everybody's fantasy, everybody's desire. It's all going to be different, and there's nothing wrong with it. So yeah, 50 Shades, I'm not a fan, never read it. I know what it's about, and I applaud them for making it more mainstream so people could have more open conversations.
Do you think that women needs to be more vocal about when he is bad in bed?
Oh yeah.
How do you tell? I mean, we as women also do not want to know that we're bad in bed, right? But how do you tell someone that they are bad in bed?
Hey, you're not great in bed. I mean, it depends on the variation, correct? Like, I can tell you, there was a guy that I dated for a while. We finally got in bed. I think he lasted for a minute and a half. He rolled over. He thought it was great. And I turned to him and I was like, that was the worst experience of my life. Get out. Like, just get that time, you know? Oh, and then there are other times where if your partner is trying something, or you guys are trying something together, or, you know, and you don't like it, you know, it depends on the varying degrees of selfishness and bad lovemaking that requires a different level of communication. So I think if somebody is bad, you just you step up and you say it. If you care for that person, you say, hey, we need to change a couple of things, and you don't do it like right away. Like, you have to also think about the tactic and the approach. But I think the truth is that no one wants to hear that they're a bad lover. And most people are very open to, you know, wanting to make themselves better.
Right. Well, my own experience, like you shared yours, was I dated him. I didn't want him to touch me anymore. I was so fed up with it. I think we lasted about 2 or 3 weeks. That was the longest of the hell of my life. And we went to Bangkok, and I was sleeping, and it was 7 o'clock in the morning. He opened the shade, and that was my excuse. I packed my shit and I left Bangkok, and I lost his number. I was like, no more. So he was trying to get back to me, and I was like, seriously, I said, you're not for me. And, you know, I think women are a lot more kinder. We try not to hurt men's feelings a lot by saying they're bad in bed. And you're right. I think there's moments that we don't do it immediately. We just lose their number, pack your shit, and go. No. Yeah. I'm just joking.
No, you're not. So, it's fine. You're not. Okay.
Okay. So for women, we like to. For us, we make noises, and for men, they love it when you make noises. But do you think that women also want men to make noises when they're having sexual intimacy with us? Isn't that like an approval for us that we're doing something right? No?
I think just want to makes a noise, or whether or not a guy makes a noise or has implosions instead of explosions, as long as, you know, like Bill said, if you're tuned into your part, like, you know, you'll know that you're pleasing your partner, and you want to be pleased, but there's a level of satisfaction when you know you're the one that's really turning somebody on.
True. And now we're going to have Bill answer this question.
Okay, so you have to repeat the question because I'm riveted by the conversation. I just want to sit here and watch. Okay, whoa. Back up. That didn't come out right. That didn't come. I meant watch the playback, okay? As a producer, professional standpoint. What was the question?
The question is, like women, we also need men, because I know that men want to hear the pleasure of women, right? But we as women need men to vocalize also, you know, make some noises that we know that we have satisfied you too at the same time. But most men are very quiet.
Well, do you think that maybe it's that we're quiet as males because we're not actually told? I know from a fact that if someone lets me know that it's okay to vocalize, then I'll be okay to vocalize. And this is really interesting, because let's move away from lovemaking and vocalization. We're brought up as children, at least I was, where you went to a library and you kept quiet. We're brought up to go to a hospital, keep quiet. Go to a funeral home, keep quiet. And so what is it? Does that mean that we're conditioned to be silent? No, it's just that we're trying to decide when to be quiet and when to make noise. So when you go to a ball game as a guy, you stand up and you cheer. When you're sitting around the table, you're quiet. So it has a lot to do with consideration. So I think the guy that just doesn't come out and start screaming at you when he's making love to you, it's a matter of consideration. Someone who just comes up and just starts screaming, and because you don't know how loud you want it to be, right? They're kind of selfish. So I think it's important for the woman to let most guys know that, hey, if they sense that a guy is withholding the way that he expresses himself. And I think that's really important. For example, Joe is in the music industry, right? And so I'm sure she can tell at the drop of a dime when someone is singing the lyrics versus actually performing the song. And so I think this is what's important as well, because you have to be sensitive. You have to understand. So if a female thinks that one of us as a male is withholding, and this is where, women have to be responsive to our signs, our signals, then she can say, it's okay if you feel good. And then I'm sure, we will actually vocalize. Now, if a woman, on the other hand, says, that wasn't loud enough, can you scream a little bit louder? Because, it really turns me on when you scream and go, ah! Go, no. Can you a bit more bass? Okay, then it becomes into something ridiculous. Okay, so I'm just saying that to make light of it. But you see, it's all about communication at the end of the day, right? So there you go.
Oh my God, I'm lost for words.
Hey, well, they were your questions, okay?
No, but okay. So the next question, I've got a lot of questions, but this is the biggest question that I want to ask most women. Most women ask, does size matter, Joe?
Okay, so I can tell you, oh my God. So yes, size does matter. I'm sorry, it does. And I'm speaking from a very personal experience and something that just recently happened in my last relationship. So, there's no other way to say this. He was the smallest man I had ever been with, and it wasn't terrible. I want to make that very clear. But I never, and he made up for it in other ways. I mean, I don't want to throw him under the bus because he was a good lover, right? But I felt quite often, wanting to go longer because I wasn't getting satisfied the way that I needed to. So, and it wasn't because not of this conversation. Can you hear me? Test.
I missed out the last sentence.
Yeah, I don't want to scare the guys off because I don't want them to think that I'm just talking about an average size. I'm really not. Yeah. But did he please me? He absolutely pleased me, and not just with what he had, but in other ways as well.
Yeah, but I want to touch on this because this is a very fragile question, because men take it to penis is associated with men's manhood, right? So almost when you talk about things like this, I hear the response of men. Yeah, maybe you are too loose, maybe this, but it's not. It's preferences. There are women that think that, if it's too big, it doesn't satisfy them. It's all about the man. So I have to share you, I did this research today. So the average penis measures at 3.5 inches non-erect and approximately 5 inches erected. So there are women that says that, if it's too big, they prefer 5 to 8 no more than 9, you know, but this is all your own preferences, you know. You are shocked.
9? What are you kidding? Oh my God. What are you, dating a horse? What is going on there? We're talking about a man. We're not talking about a donkey. Come on now.
So, but for me, it is. For me, size does matter, and I think because we both, Joe, are incredible women with so much confidence that we know what we want. We can speak about this, you know. And to the guys, you know, this is no disrespect to you guys about how big you are, how small you are. This is about what we like, what we want. Just like you like women, you know, with big tits or, you know, big asses. It's the same for us. So, you know, you can take it any way you want it. If you get insulted, then it's your own shit to deal with.
You know what? I just want to add to that. To that and say that, you know, you're absolutely right, but I don't want to compare it to, like, you know, breast or ass. I'd rather compare it to actual like vaginal muscle control. And, you know, some guys like a girl that's really tight, and some guys like a girl that's really wet, and some guys don't. And, you know, it's absolutely about preference. And some women maybe prefer men to be of a smaller width and girth and size, and it brings them great pleasure. And again, just making it very clear to the guys, this wasn't like an average. Yeah, this wasn't an average experience that I had. So
but the
I don't want to pick anybody.
But the average I noted was 3.5 to 5. So I don't even want to know, Joe.
You know what? No comment. If you don't have anything nice to say. Up. I can't hear you. Nope, can't hear you. Test. Can you hear me?
Go ahead and
Close it.
talk.
Hi. Sorry about that. We talked too long about this, and it was a hot topic, so it died on us. The camera.
And I might be able to come back.
And we might be able to come back, as he's saying. I'm just waiting for Joe. So before I come on, Joe comes back on, there are things that I want to share with you. Let me see. Hang on a second, guys.
I want to make sure I can hear you.
Okay. So the conclusion of this talk today. Oh, before I do that, let's do this first, okay? So there are 10 things that women want in bed. So we're going to go through the 10 things. If I can find the bloody 10 things. Okay, got it. So the 10 things. Eye contact. So, you can look at each other and, can get lost in souls in bed. They want kinkiness, but women, you also need to voice out what you want. I know that some women are very self-conscious, then they become prudes. You need to open up. You also have the right to know what the big O is and enjoy your sexual encounter. For you.
I want to talk.
Are we live?
Yes, we're live. Yes, we are. I want to.
Size matters?
No, yes, size matters.
Okay. Let me finish this. Okay, sorry. Okay, so number 2 is kinkiness. 3, for you to be more vocal, like men saying to us, you are amazing, you satisfy me, you are the bomb or whatever. This is men telling women. I'm telling you the 10 things that men needs to tell women. Women need to, you have to allow women to satisfy themselves by exploring and touching themselves while doing the actual sexual adventures together. It's not about you don't feel insecure. You need to be spontaneous, man. You also need to pay attention. And this goes also for women. It's not just men. If you want to have a great sex life. Initiate games, toys, ditch the one size fit all. We were talking about size, but this is different type of size. Foreplay is important, and also rhythm, pace, slow down, enjoy the process. Now we go back to Bill because he wants to answer size matters.
Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting because Joe, before we lost her, and I think Joe's going to come back in just a moment, folks. We apologize for that because the battery just went kaput on the laptop because it was at its extreme. And me being the tech guy, it's my fault because I forgot to plug in the adapter. Okay, but anyway, just in terms of what Joe had ended with, she was talking about how size does matter, and Laila was talking about size does matter. And for those men out there, I'll put myself in the place of everyone else who does not have the size that perhaps women would appreciate. Joe started to mention, I'm sure Laila will agree, that a lot of it has to do with other than just penis size. But when it comes to just that one question, then size matters to them. But Joe was starting to explain how the vaginal area is stimulated to a certain extent by the physicality of a guy. So guys, it's important to understand that if you feel that you're not the size that you need to be, just like I would love to play basketball, but I'm only 5'7". So what do? I try to do the best that I can. I still try to enjoy myself because there are certain things that we have no control over. That doesn't mean I'm going to be self-conscious about that. We just have to explore new ways of providing for things that our partner needs without it relying on, the penetration of our penis based on size. Because there are so many things that can be done. As Laila has listed just now, there are several things that entail lovemaking. It's not just the physical act of penetration. So I just wanted to make sure the guys know that, because I know, guys, you're watching Joe and Laila giggle, and you're probably and I'm giggling on the side too, because I think it's hilarious that it's so open, that we're talking about something that has been so taboo. But I just wanted to assure you guys that there is another guy here, and I totally get where you're coming from, and I'm sensitive to what that size does matter may have affected you. Ain't no big thing, guys. Just bring it, in a different way if you can't physically. That's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
And
You guys
can I say something?
Yeah, but like I said, I like to repeat that this is nothing to do with us degrading you guys. It works both ways, like Joe had pointed out. I'm sorry I've lost Joe. It was really interesting. I guess I lost it because
Yes.
what do you call it? The topic is too intense. At the end of the day, I believe your sexuality, it belongs to you. It doesn't belong to anyone. It doesn't belong to the government. It doesn't belong to your parents. It doesn't belong to your partner, religion, or your best friend, or the village. It belongs to you. You should know what you like, and you have the right to explore what you want. If you take care of yourself, your body, everything else will fall in its place. Your work, your financial education, and everything like that. It's your body. You have the right. You have the absolute right to like what you want as an individual. Know what you want. Don't conform. Don't limit yourself. Be your own teacher. You are the teacher of your own body and your own self. Also, be truthful. Know what you like and what you dislike, because when you are, your base, what you like, your life will become a lot smoother. But it's not going to be so popular because other people is going to try to conform you. You need to be with a partner find a partner that's in sync with you. There's no shaming each other. You got to be open. I'm not a sex therapist, but like I said, this show is about my own experiences and my guests. There are some experiences that are wonderful, some are awful, and I hope you guys don't have to go through the awful part. I'm gonna bring back Joe to end this. Oh, I just lost her for a minute. To bring her on board, but I guess Joe is not here. But I appreciate your time, and I appreciate Bill's, and I know he's very stressed because he got to run back and forth, and also Joe, and hopefully I'll have her back on board the next show. I just want to touch before I go. Last week's topic, Shush, I know your secret, your dirty secret. It was a bit touchy for everybody because it's a little bit of taboo. I do not want to apologize for what I talked about, because I think a friend of mine said to me, you talk about things that are taboo and make people uncomfortable. So if we can talk about it, it might stop. It will have to stop the taboo actions. We should not be ashamed of the taboo things that we talk about, but the taboo actions that are still going on. Molesting, rape through kids, animals, or women, or men, is a definite no-no. That was last week's topic. Now I have Joe. Joe, come back on and give us words of wisdom about the big O and sexuality and all that.
Okay, so what I do want to mention, I want to test.
Can't hear Joe.
Test. We try. Test.
Oh, I can hear you. Go ahead, Joe. Joe.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I do want to mention that I do want to come back to the size thing for just a second. And I want to say that is not the deciding factor of the relationship. That was not I want to make it clear to guys that, that's a very small portion. Not to be punny, but that's a small portion of the relationship. When you have somebody that, from a woman's perspective, when you have somebody that really cares about you, that's a very small portion. That not to be punny, but that's a small portion of the relationship. When you have somebody that, from a woman's perspective, when you have somebody that really cares about you, that's a very small. That not to be punny, but that's a small portion.
That's it.
Joe, what?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So on that note, Joe, please give words of wisdom to say to women out there who's trying to find themselves sexually.
Don't be afraid. Speak up. Find yourself, and you'll find your voice.
Don't worry. It's on a delay.
Did you catch it?
Okay, got it, Joe. Thank you so much for being on the show. I hope to see you again, and then different segment, and not so stressful for you walking around from your bedroom to your living room. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye everybody.
And
take care.
And thank you, Bill.
All right.
And we're out of here.
Out. Bye, guys.
Bye.